Hello students, in this lecture we are going to discuss next important topic which has been prescribed into your syllabus by Punjab University Chandigarh. So the topic which we are going to discuss today is stages of communication process. I repeat the topic, stages of communication process. So let's discuss with this topic. The four stages of the communication process are the sender, message, receiver, and feedback. The four stages are sender, who sends the message, then the message which is being sent, then the receiver who receives the message sent by the sender, and the feedback by the receiver. Within educational institutions, when the instructors are imparting knowledge to the individuals in terms of stages of communication, it needs to be illustrated in the form of diagram. When the students observe the diagram, they are able to acquire an understanding of the concepts in a well organized manner. In understanding the stages of communication process, the instructors need to put into operation the teaching learning methods in a well organized manner. So, as in our previous lecture, I presented a diagram which shows the communication process, which makes the process of communication clear to you. And today we are going to discuss the elements which take place in the communication process. So when a teacher presents a diagram before his students, they can acquire better understanding of that concept. Furthermore, the instructional strategies that are put into operation by the instructors are reading, writing, and discussing. They are organization of activities as well, which enable the students to understand the stages of the communication process in an effective manner. One of the common activities is role play. In role play, the individuals are required to assume the roles of characters. In this activity, they are required to communicate with each other in terms of topics, which would facilitate in acquiring an efficient understanding of the communication process. The stages of communication process have been stated as follows. So let's now discuss the different stages which take place in the process of communication. The very first stage is sender. Sender is the individual who imparts information to other individuals who may be one or more. So, sender is the person or the individual who imparts, means who gives information to other individuals. Sender may be one or more than one. When the senders are imparting information to one or more individuals, they need to ensure that information is well organized. So, when a sender sends an information or gives information to other individuals, they must ensure, they should check that information which is being sent or which is being shared with others is well organized. They need to prepare themselves well with various ideas and perspectives that are needed to be conveyed to the receivers. So they should check their information before sending it to the receivers. They may impart information in a verbal, non-verbal, or in a written form. In the process of communication, the role of sender is regarded to be of utmost significance in initiating the communication process. They provide credibility and validation to the statements and speech. When the sender initiates the communication process, apart from possessing adequate knowledge in terms of the concepts, they need to communicate in a friendly way. So when the sender sends something, he must communicate with other persons or other individuals in a friendly way. The senders need to possess an approachable nature and an amiable attitude. Amiable means friendly. Sender must have an approachable nature and friendly behavior with the individuals with whom he is going to share his information, so the receivers do not feel hesitant in communicate with them. Amiable attitude and an approachable nature enables the senders to form connections with the receivers. The receivers will be able to approach them and obtain solutions to any kinds of problems and difficulties. Therefore, it can be stated when the senders will be well prepared and knowledgeable, they will continue efficiently in enriching the communication process. So, in the first stage sender, the sender must have uh, information that is well organized. He must have friendly behavior and approachable nature so that the receiver may contact him or approach him at any time to receive information regarding that message. So, the next stage is message. Messages are referred to the information that is transmitted by the senders to the receivers. So, messages are the information that are transmitted by the sender to the receiver. They can be information related to different subjects, concepts, individuals, and so forth. So, message can be related to any different subject or any concept or any individual means any person. And likewise, these are imparted in an oral, non-verbal, and written form. So it can be shared in any form, verbal, non-verbal, or written. The signs and symbols are also made use of to convey messages. So a person can use any sign or symbol also to convey his message. In some cases, messages are positive, whereas in other cases, they are negative. When information is imparted by the sender to the receiver, that arouses feelings of pleasure and contentment. Contentment means satisfaction among them. The messages are regarded as positive. On the other hand, when information is imparted that enables the individuals to feel disappointed or stressed, then the messages are regarded as negative. So, a message should be in a positive form. In some cases, when the receivers receive negative messages from the senders, they may bring an end to the communication process because it will have a negative impact on the receiver. So, they may bring the communication process to an end. In other words, the communication process may be weakened when the individuals are exchanging with each other unpleasant viewpoints. In order to reinforce or to make strength or to strengthen the communication process, it is important or it is vital for the individuals to ensure they encourage positivity in messages. So it's positivity is very important in the message which is being conveyed. But when negative messages are imparted, the senders need to ensure that their connections and terms with the receivers do not weaken. Furthermore, it is necessary to make use of polite language. So, the sender of the message must keep in his mind all these things that his message may have a positive impact or positivity in it, and the language used by the sender of the message must be polite. Next stage is receiver. Receivers are the individuals who receive information and messages that are imparted to them by the senders. So receivers are the persons who receive the message sent by the senders. There are various factors which need to be taken into account by the receivers. These are, they need to play they need to pay adequate attention towards the senders. They need to learn to interpret the information received and express their responses. When the receivers have understood the information well, they convey the viewpoint to the senders that they have understood well. So, when the receiver receives any message or information, he should try to learn or to interpret that information, and they should convey their viewpoints to the senders that they have understood well the message sent by them. On the other hand, when they have not been able to acquire an understanding of the information, they usually ask the senders to reiterate it. So, if they are not able to acquire the meaning of of the information, then they can ask the senders to convey that message again. When the senders receive adequate responses from the receivers, they are able to identify that their efforts have proven to be meaningful. So, a receiver must try to interpret the information shared by the sender, and he must let the sender know that they have clearly understood the meaning of the information shared by them. The efforts which the senders make in imparting information to the receivers prove to be effectual when the receivers are able to understand the concepts in an adequate manner. Normally, the receivers also make use of the same channel to express their responses, but in some cases, they may use different channels as well. For instance, when the senders are communicating with them through email, they respond through emails or phone calls or both. Therefore, receivers are used to communicate with the senders in an appropriate manner. So it's essential on the part of the receiver that they should communicate with the sender in an appropriate manner regarding the information shared by the sender. Next stage is feedback. Feedback is referred to as the return of information about the result or the returned position of a process. Feedback is when the senders express their responses to the answers or information that they have received from the receivers. So, feedback is the information or the response to the answers or information which they have received from the receivers. For example, when the receivers express their responses to the information they have received from the senders, then the senders too need to provide feedback. Through receiving of feedback, the receivers usually feel contented. Contented means satisfied that they are able to provide solutions to their problems and challenges. So, when a receiver gives his uh, feedback, gives his response to the sender about the message shared by him with the receiver, then the sender can give the solution to the problems and challenges which the receiver puts in front of them. In some cases, the feedback is positive, whereas in other cases, as well as it is negative as well. Positive feedback is desirable and negative feedback is undesirable. So everyone wants that the feedback must be in positive form. Feedback is given by the senders through various sources, which are verbal, non-verbal, and written. In providing feedback, there are various factors which need to be taken into account. So various factors take place in providing feedback. These are depicting positivity. Fac- uh, Depicting positivity, focus should be put upon the behavior, not the person. Depicting specificity, depicting timeless timeliness, implementing clarity. Judgment should not be used. It should be provided from a neutral place, implementing politeness. Negativities should be stated in a constructive manner, and feedback should be productive towards the communication. So, feedback should be clear, and judgment should not be needed. Uh, it should be uh, very it should be in a polite manner. Negativity should not be stated in a constructive manner, and the feedback should be productive towards communication. This is the final stage of the communication process and brings the communication process to a conclusion. So, all these stages take place in a communication process. First there is sender, then there is message, then there is receiver who receives the message, and at last there is feedback, which is the information about the result or the returned portion of a process by the receiver. So students, today we have covered this important topic, stages of communication process. Tomorrow we will continue with our next lecture. Thank you. Thank you very much.